Hello, and welcome to part 3 of the series, the sequel to My Body is My Enemy and My Mind is My Enemy. Now we have My Body is Still My Enemy. And I'll give you the standard disclaimer. This is going to be about some kind of distressing things, about some upsetting parts of my life, things that I've struggled with. Just kind of be careful when you're watching that you don't become upset, and please do your best to not deliberately upset me. um, it's heavy stuff. And probably by the end of this video, you'll likely figure out where all of this is going and what the big happy ending in part 4 is going to be. So, please be common sense respectful until part 4 comes out, which I think is just going to be tomorrow. I think I'll post these once a day. Okay, so on top of all of my digestive nightmares, I actually had many, many other problems with my body and my appearance. And this might kind of sound strange because, I record thousands of videos showing my face and post them on the internet for everyone to see. But actually, one of the reasons I started making videos was because I wanted to help myself adjust to my appearance and to the sound of my voice. It used to be so bad that if I saw myself in a mirror, or if I ever heard myself in a recording or something, it would actually cause me like a lot of just visceral distress. Like it would make me upset. Um, just like randomly. Like it didn't happen every time, but like randomly it would just give me the shock of like, oh my God, that's actually what I look like. I would feel terrible. So I thought of doing this, it would help. It would kind of show me that there's nothing terrible, that I'm just like a normal looking person overall. That yeah, and this was generally a success. I really think so. I think it actually helped quite a lot get over this kind of shock level of self-knowing, self-judging, like seeing yourself, self-awareness. It helped a lot. I no longer ever feel like shocked seeing myself or anything like that. But not completely. Like I still had all of these complexes. I still had all these things I hated about my appearance, but it wasn't so jarring anymore. So let's talk about some things I hate about my appearance. By far the biggest one is my height. I don't know why this is probably, it's definitely my height. I was always the tallest kid in my class, and often in several classes above me as well. Often I was several inches taller than the next tallest kid. I'm 6'6", which is about 200 centimeters. You usually can't tell when I'm out and about because I slouch a lot. Slouching really bothers me. I know that it's terrible for your back, and it makes you kind of look, I don't know, it doesn't make you look very good. But I also really hated the feeling of trying to stand up straight and tall and sticking my chest out. That also felt really terrible and conspicuous and made me really aware of myself because I had to kind of deliberately do it. My natural inclination is to slouch. And then I would be like aware of my appearance again. I would be aware of how tall I actually was, and it would feel terrible. So a big, terrible cycle of slouching more and more, but then that making it harder and harder to not slouch. Since I was a kid, I had all of these intricate fantasies of shrinking, donating my height to others somehow, because people would often say, "Oh, you're so lucky, you're so tall. I wish I was taller." Ah, this one is quite visceral, and I think it's the closest one to like a realistic procedure that I often thought, I wish I could just saw out the middle of all of my bones and then reconnect the ends and then just kind of shrink down like that. I hated my facial features too. They seemed really stick outy and large, like my ears stick out, and I have like a big nose and a big mouth, and my brow sticks out a lot. Um, Also, due to my digestive problems, I was usually really skinny. Like you could see my rib cage quite easily, and my arms were really twiggy, and my legs and stuff and everything. But yeah, at the same time, I would have this gut protruding super hard because it was full of poop. And when those were finally fixed, when I was able to go to the bathroom like a normal person, my metabolism was also really slowing down. I was able to gain weight much quicker, and now I'm pretty fat. Now my body is quite chubby and there's all sorts of excess fat and stuff. So I really don't remember a time in my life where I was happy with my weight. My proportions always felt all weird and wrong. I just hated any clothing that like highlighted how my body looked. I just wanted things with like as baggy a drape as possible, very neutral colors. I just did not. I described myself once as like fashion nihilistic. I just wanted like an oblivion of aesthetic sense. I just wanted people to look over me and not see anything. I remember an incident in grade 2. This is very vivid to me. I was being pushed on a tire swing, and suddenly I felt like I had this like third party perspective that I could see myself. And for some reason I felt repulsed. And for years, because of this one incident, for years, I didn't wear jeans, which I was wearing at the time, or the shirt that I had been wearing. I eventually got over this, but it was so jarring to have this image of how I was being seen by the rest of the world, and to realize how little it matched up with the image in my head. I think it was because I was being pushed on the swing, and that probably made me feel like small. Like it made me feel like I was, you know, movable. That like other people could have this kind of, I don't know. I could probably read into this quite psychoanalytically, but maybe not to any productive ends. But at any rate, even though I felt maybe small or something, I could suddenly see that the person pushing me was actually much smaller than me, and I freaked out, and I changed things about my appearance just so that I knew that it wasn't quite the same. And this has happened again several times. Every once in a while, I'll have this extremely vivid vision of myself from like a third party. Um, and I don't really know why. I don't know if this is like a common thing. It doesn't feel like I'm hallucinating. Like it's nothing crazy like that. It just kind of like intrusively comes to mind. Like this is what you look like right now. And often when this happens, it causes me really severe distress, and I feel extremely anxious, and I just want to kind of like get out of whatever situation I'm in. And I usually want to change my appearance. Um, so I became more used to seeing myself like isolated in mirrors, like in the bathroom or in videos. But things like seeing myself in group photos, where I can like really tell how much larger I am than other people, are still quite unbearable for me. I just, yeah. So, you know, rationally, like objectively, I know that I don't look terrible. I've had people compliment my appearance before, and I believe that they're being sincere. But whenever that happened, whenever any attention was paid to my appearance, it would always make me really uncomfortable. Um, this all changed, by the way, because I think probably some people are reading this, and they're like, what? Oh, wait, sorry, we gotta go one slide back. I bet a lot of people are reading this and they're like, what? This doesn't seem to describe you that well in terms of like, I don't know, the way I talked about dressing and stuff. So this has changed. Like I've gotten a lot better about a lot of these things, but it took a lot of work, and it was mostly due to realizing other related things. But we'll get to that. I just suddenly thought of that and I was like, I thought I covered that in the slides, but I didn't. Okay. I protested many other functions of my body too. And I had to get braces. I felt this really deep frustration. It felt like my body was just not cooperating. Like, what the hell do I feed you for? And I still have problems with this, where I just binge eat junk food, and I feel really self-loathing about it because, I feel like I'm fat and that I'm not doing anything good for my health and can get like diabetes or something. So I'll just sit there like eating chips or candy and being like, the fuck is wrong with me? And what really bothered me about it was that it felt like my body was craving it, that it was this physical thing, that it had nothing to do with my mind, it had nothing to do with the person I thought I was supposed to be, but it was just this body I was stuck in was causing me these intense cravings. And certain physical reactions my body has, like sweating, I actually sweat a lot. When I play video games, my hands sweat a lot. So if we're in like a share the controller type situation, it's led to a lot of awkwardness and embarrassment. And just if I'm exercising, I just like pour sweat, and for a long time it really disgusted me. Again, this is all stuff that I've gotten a lot better about. Like now when I go to the gym and I'm like pouring sweat and I squeeze my headband into the trash and see all of this sweat come out, I'm kind of like, hell yeah, I ran really, really hard today. So that's good. That's good. But I remember as a kid, I really didn't like exercising because I felt like I was becoming really sweaty and disgusting, and probably I had poop in my pants. So it was a really terrible combination. So yeah. um, but I knew that none of these things were really the answer. And that if I resolved any of these, or even all of them, the problem would just keep shifting to something else, like whack-a-mole. So what was the actual issue? What was underneath all of these things? Could there even be something so fundamental? Okay, please indulge me in a thinly veiled sci-fi allegory. I don't know why I wanted to do this. I had this compulsion that this is how I should go about talking about this. Okay, so we have this alien planet. It's very similar to Earth. It has a very Earth-like society. The only difference is that at birth, there's this big machine, and it assigns a letter to each and every individual as they're born. This letter doesn't actually mean anything, but it also kind of means everything. Parents typically name their children based off the assigned letter. When they refer to someone, you often just call them their letter. You don't actually use their whole name, but just the letter they were assigned. The aliens can actually freely change the color of their skin to any hue in the rainbow, but the vast majority choose a color that corresponds to their letter, just by societal convention, that all of the B's kind of choose these colors, all the D's choose these colors. And it's to the extent that when people see someone, they assume their letter based on their color and will address them as a letter corresponding to that color. It's just, it's a safe assumption. Most people do it like that. Things like careers or your romantic partner or your societal role, none of these are actually determined based on one's gender. There's no legal framework to that. But there are large correlations between one's letter and one's choices in these areas. Debate rages on about how the big machine works. Does it assign letters based on predicted traits? Oh, you would be good at this kind of job. You would be good in this sort of role. You would be good in this sort of relationship. Therefore, you are a W. Or is it just that because you're a W, you go along with all the societal pressure to make the choices that W's typically make? Maybe it's some combination of both. I don't know. Maybe it makes like some guess that there is some sort of inherent traits that the machine can read, but that they don't really make that big a difference, but that combined with the societal pressure is enough that the vast majority of people kind of just go along with it. But does it really matter why people end up with these letters? Even though the letter doesn't dictate anything specifically, many would find it difficult or even impossible to go against society's expectations. If they wanted to. Most people don't seem to want to. Some do, though. So what is this an analogy for? Obviously, it is in Thriller Bark, when Gecko Moria took the shadows of pirates and shoved them into corpses, creating zombies with no concern whatsoever about a smooth transition or connection between the body and the shadow. Tisk, tisk, tisk. So glad I called him out with my thinly veiled sci-fi allegory. No, just kidding. It's obviously gender. I'll see you in part 4.